Now, whoever said a person with a disability cannot smile, whoever said a person with a disability cannot thrive in life. That is the embedment of our discussion this morning on Thursday's edition of Morning at NTV. Our Kickstarter focusing on enabling policies for persons with disabilities. I am Priscilla Regina Naloga. Now, the International Day of Persons with Disabilities is on and upon us. You get to look at last year during its commemoration. Key achievements were highlighted and challenges identified in relation to upholding the rights and welfare of persons with disabilities. There was a launch of policy documents to enhance the well-being of persons with disabilities, which included a brailled version of the Constitution, the revised national policy of persons with disabilities, the audio-visual version of the Persons with Disabilities Act 2020, and the comprehensive report on albinism situation. We take a stroll down this conversation with my guests this morning. The one that is on my immediate left is Honorable Asamo Helen Grace. She is the Minister of State for Disability Affairs. You're most welcome, Honorable Minister.
Yeah, thank you, Priscilla. Thank you, NTV. And I want to greet all the viewers and the listeners that we are most welcome to this place.
And what is your message to people with disabilities?
Yeah, one, you have started on the ground of policies. I want, first of all, and I like the way you say smiling. Yeah. My message to people with disabilities, let's believe in ourselves. That is how God has made us. And the good thing, we are all in the image of God, because that's what the Bible tells us. So we must have confidence as people with disabilities that we are what we are. And the nation is because we are.
All right. Yeah. That is very, very confident boosting. We are also joined by Esther Kyozira, the Chief Executive Officer with the National Union of Disabled Persons of Uganda. You're most welcome, Madam CEO.
Thank you.
Yes.
And I'm glad to be here. Good morning, our viewers and our listeners.
What would your message to the people with disabilities be?
My message is that we should celebrate everything that we achieve in life, because being a person with disability, it's not easy to gain confidence. So if one has gained that confidence, I wish one can celebrate that confidence. And people should respect them when they are celebrating their confidence.
Okay.
Yes.
You know, sometimes when we speak generically, the message stops at the front. But when we speak personalizing it, the person to whom it should be for actually gets to mention it and become a better person. Esther, what's your story of disability?
My story?
Yes. And Esther has a very powerful vision. She sees very, very far. But it is something that you acquired later on in life. You were not born with it.
Yes. Okay. I want to say that I'm a person with vision impairment. I don't want to believe that I see very, very far. It is the heart that sees very far, but the physical eyes are not able to see very far. I was born sighted, and at the age of 13, I got a complication of a disease I cannot tell. And I lost sight, and that made me leave school from the ordinary way of education. So I had to come back as a person with vision impairment. I had to learn Braille. Braille is a special way people with vision impairment read and write. Then I had also to go and learn typing. Typing is the learning of the printer or the typewriter those days. And what would happen is that you'd braille your work and then you type it out for the teacher to see and mark you. Then I also had to learn what we call mobility. Mobility is the special way you can learn to navigate the environment without seeing. You use, either you can use a person whom we call a body guide, or you can use a white cane. That is the white stick that we normally see that visually impaired people use. So I had to learn all those for me to be able to cope up with the environment.
Okay.
And yeah, here I am.
Well,
yes.
Thank you so much for sharing your wonderful story, Esther. Which makes me turn to the minister here. In memory of last year and the commemoration of the International Day of Persons with Disabilities, there were some milestones that were taken, some achievements that were registered. You do have the policy documents to enhance well-being of persons with disabilities, including the brailled version of the Constitution. How far in assessment has this enabled persons with disabilities 1 year down the road?
Okay, first of all, I want to say these documents were launched by the Vice President of Uganda when we were in Kole, that was northern Uganda. And when we launched these documents, it was already a step forward for government to begin inclusiveness of people with disabilities, especially the visually impaired like Esther. You know, our constitution is in print. So now we have a constitution which has been brailled. Despite the quality of the weight of the, because when you braille it becomes really so big. But now Esther is able to go and read the constitution in her language of braille, and I will also read it in print. So for down the way, the 13th country, I mean Uganda has been the 13th country to do that. So it means that we are now able to service people who have what? Visual impairment to access a constitution which is a supreme law. So they are able to know what are our rights, how do we use this booklet to advance our issues. We have also gone ahead now to prepare to braille the act for people with disabilities so that they can also know that in the act specific for them, what happens to them. And then we are also, the policy is also something that people are able to understand. The audiovisual is majorly for the deaf people, for them to see the pictures and be able to visualize and say, oh, this is how the act is. And then, of course, the other law, which policy you brought in, the albinism, we have an action plan. You know what people with albinism in our community are seen to be people who are not, I think people fear even them. They namagoye, they give them all these names, they don't die. I don't know whether it's true. But we have not, we believe they are our family members. And we have also made an action plan of inclusion. This now informs government on how to do the planning, how to program, and how do we support this kind of people. Okay. So you'll see, for example, now the Namagoye people, government accepted to waive off the taxes for their sunscreen, because without the sunscreen, they are prone to cancer. So these policy documents inform government in terms of its planning. And also to notify you that, like the Braille Constitution was really done by Uganda Law Reform Commission. So it gives you that the government entities are beginning to take in how to make these things. We give them guidance as people with disabilities, then they take it up and say, we need to make these things more accessible to everybody. Okay.
Esther, with the National Union, what are the categories of disabilities that you look into?
Uganda has several disability categories, and if you look at our Persons with Disabilities Act, it actually breaks them down, and they are in about 8 categories. We have those that have physical disabilities. Those are people who have issues with their bones, regardless of where the bone is, the arm, the back, the legs, the chest. Those are all people that fall under that category.
You said the minister.
The minister. Like the honorable minister. And many of those use crutches, they use wheelchairs, some of them use calipers, others have adjusted shoes, depending on the assessment that the doctors give you. Then we have people with visual impairment, like myself. We have those that are totally blind, partially blind, low vision. Then we have people who are deaf. Those are people who don't hear at all, and those mostly use sign language interpreters. Then we have people who are hard of hearing. They are still part of the deaf club. We have people with dwarfism. These are people with short stature. I think you have seen them. That the measurement, we normally say if you have 4 feet and below, then you belong to that group. Everyone thinks that when you are short, just short, you qualify. No, we are looking at those people who are even not able to sit on a chair like this one I'm seated on, who are not able to climb stairs, who are not even able to use the ordinary desk in class. So those are the people with dwarfism, or others call them little people. We have people who have multiple disabilities, and these are several. There are those that are deaf-blind, there are those that have spina bifida and hydrocephalus, there are those that are having visual and physical, others have mental and physical, so we put them in that category of multiple. Then we have those that have epilepsy. Epilepsy, those are people who get frequent seizures and fits. So sometimes you find someone walking, all of a sudden he falls and is convulsing. Normally, the first thing you should know is epilepsy. When it is frequent, it normally affects the brain and the functionality of such a person. Then we have people with mental and psychosocial disability. These are people who get mental illness, and many of them are managing it on medicines, on drugs, to be able to do their work. But of course, you know what mental illness means and does to anyone. Then we have, I hope I've listed the categories, but I fear to miss out any.
It's okay.
Because there are those that feel you have not mentioned that.
Yeah.
We have people with cerebral palsy. They still fall under the category for physical. So there are many. In case someone has not been mentioned, I refer you to the Persons with Disabilities Act. It's very clear on who do we consider in Uganda as a person with disability and which categories they are.
Minister Asamo, you did mention inclusion. Equal Opportunities report has come out, and in regards to inclusion assessment for persons with disabilities, what was the performance?
I will say, Priscilla, I didn't read the report in detail because there have been these things coming on the newspaper more about employment and whatever. But I think last week when we had the birthday, 36 years, I have already asked the chairperson of the Equal Opportunities Commission, who is also a person with disability, to go and assess where are we as disabled people, like in terms of employment. So that we, instead of talking about the Western, the whatever, we now need her to pick out and say, yes, the government in its NDP 3 says inclusive development. So in that inclusive development, where are we? And as a commission, that is really their mandate. So it is something that is still work in progress. There are issues they discover about people with disability, but it comes like a generic thing. We are not homogeneous. The visually impaired need other kind of assistance. A physical, we need something to support them in whatever they are going to do. You find a deaf person might need an interpreter. So all these things must come out in a way that the women with disabilities, their needs are different from the men. So I was in that function, and I told the commission, next report, please get us out so that it helps us and informs us in how do we inform government to bring us into inclusivity.
Yes, because data is very paramount in actually having the conversations and mitigations and implementations of things. All right, you've mentioned inclusive development. Esther, when it comes to inclusive national development, let's take the case study of the PDM. I know that there's a percentage that is meant to be for persons with disabilities.
Yes.
But in reality and on ground, have persons with disabilities benefited from that percentage in the PDM?
PDM is just beginning. So
but it's over 1 year old
even if you
now.
went to my honorable here, I will tell you, no, we are still starting. We are laying the ground.
1 year later, it's still starting.
No, Priscilla, I will talk because
Let
Esther will first bring. Let me talk. Let Esther comes and we argues it out because I am in the kitchen. Okay, I'm in the kitchen.
Okay.
Because we want to say that PDM is a new concept. I know it is 1 year, but really a baby of 1 year. She's just starting to struggle to walk.
But they are walking.
No,
they are attempting to walk.
They are attempting to walk, and that's where we are.
And they're still a person, honorable.
We are attempting to walk. We are struggling. But what we must first agree, in the policy document, there was a recognition that there are persons with what? Disabilities. And when the cabinet came up with percentages, we argued it out and they said, yes, let's put a 10%. By the way, the mindset of people even think we are not there. That was the worst thing. When I challenged them, they said, do you really have people at the parish who are disabled? So I don't know where we are, whether we are hanging in the air or something. So the mindset of people still felt we were not even there, even to get this 10%. So we kept on urging. And my argument was, If I was elected by electoral college, which started from a village of 5 people, came to the parish of 5. So I know there are some 5 people who formed my electoral what? College. And these statistics are in the electoral commission. So it means there must be a disabled person in every parish. So we agreed on the 10%. When we formed the committees, we are there. We have our chairperson, I mean the chairperson at that level of parish, because you have the women, the youth and whatever. So automatically, Priscilla, we have somebody responsible to mobilize our people to benefit from the PDM. So if this person does not mobilize, then there's a problem, because that is the responsibility of this person. I will agree, we still have a challenge of capacity building of our members, because some people have been brought, they say, Priscilla, you're the only person who have seen disabled, come to the committee. So Priscilla sits there and wonders, what am I supposed to do next? You don't have the capacity to mobilize, you don't have the but at least we appreciate they are there. And I want to say, since we launched the PDM, you will agree with me that government also did not provide all the money. We started with the 7 million in some places, somewhere it was this. It is of recent that now we give the 100 what? Million per parish. But you realize that people with disabilities, a few are coming on. And these few, me and Esther belong to a certain club of people with what? Disabilities. We are the people who have been in the disability movement. But now, because of this program, the numbers of disability have increased.
The numbers of acknowledgement of disability.
Because there's now a program. So everybody is asking, I want to get this money, now I'm not getting this. So there is a scramble already coming up. And we are discovering, like Esther was naming, there are many disabilities out there. And it's worst when we say the caretakers can also benefit. So people are coming in, they want to scramble for our money. But what Cabinet has done, I asked the President to ring fence for us our 10% as we get our people to benefit from the 10 million. Meaning that if tomorrow local government brings its statistics, my role as a minister is to see, do I have 10 people who are benefited? Because if it is 1 million per household, then I look for the 10 people. So if there are 8, I'll ask, where is the 2 million? They have not, because it's 10 million per, at the 10% of the 100 million is 10 million. So mine is going to look at statistics. How many disabled have got? So in a parish, if you tell me there are 6 or 7, on me on average, I'll think we have moved on.
Okay. Esther,
but Esther,
back to giving us what is on the ground. What is the reality on ground? And I know that you have interacted with these people. What has been the experience in trying to, you know, fend for themselves that to 10% and also be beneficial?
I'll just add on to what Honorable said. The ground is not leveled at all when it comes to the parish development program, because the mindset is still there. The parish chiefs still believe persons with disabilities are not there in the community. So even when the money comes, they don't struggle to look for them. And remember, the categories that I've talked about, many of them cannot have no way of getting information. And because they are not getting information, there's even no one who is mobilizing them to come at the parish to get the information. Some of these representatives who are there, for them they're also looking at their own way of benefiting. So because of that, we are not seeing many persons with disabilities coming up to benefit from this 10% that was allocated. Then the other is the sort of projects that the parishes are selecting. Some of them say, for us want to grow maybe maize or beans, and the person with disabilities will not be able to fit into that project. So somehow, of course, the parish is like, now this one would just be disturbing us. They can either put him or her there to fill the numbers and say, yeah, we have persons with disabilities. But when the persons with disabilities actually are not benefiting from that, then many of them even don't know, where do I claim the 10%? Do I go to the parish chief? Do I call the minister? Do I go to NUDIPU? Where do I go? So that bit of information is missing, and because of that, the 10% is not yet there on the ground. So what we're advocating for as NUDIPU is to say, and I'm happy that the minister is saying there's a proposal for ring-fencing. We're saying, how can we progressively mobilize our people at the community level, build their capacity, make them know what this fund means to them and how they can fight for it so that their 10% is not lost. Because you know the level of abilities at the parish level are different, and our people with disabilities don't have a lot of energy. And because of that, they cannot easily struggle for their money. Okay. So that's the bit of information that is on the ground.
All right, which brings us back to national level, the prevalency of disability in Uganda. Honorable Minister, where do we stand as a country?
Yeah, I think as people with disabilities, we are 12.4% as a population of people with disabilities. That's about 5.8 people with disabilities. But I want to say that, you know, Priscilla, when you keep talking about the prevalence, about disability, for me, I look at the enablers. Because if you have enablers, there's no disability.
And what are the enablers that you are pushing for?
Yeah, we are looking at, of course, one of them was the policies. We are looking at the environmental barriers, like access to certain buildings and offices and programming. Is it inclusive development? Are we part of everything that, for example, government, which is supposed to be a responsible person to handle people with disabilities, are we together in that modeling? How are we participating? So you realize that politically, we are doing well, I would think so, because they are from the village, leave alone the capacity, from the village up to the national, we are there. Over 40,000 politicians. If these 40,000 had all the same capacity, I'm very sure that the disabled movement would have really moved ahead. You have the Esthers who are in the NGO. There are also many, because the NGOs are also very many. Those are all capacities. If this team of people, because with us as players in the disability movement, ours is advocacy and creating awareness. And then the other thing that we look at is, are we able to be, we have the slogans of saying, nothing for us without us. Nothing for us without us. Disability is not inability. But usually we say nothing for us without us. And now I sit in cabinet. That is the highest level of discussion. And I've discovered that as we do inclusion, some people don't know what to do with us because they don't know what to do. So it is now us to inform them that if you did like this, maybe we can get an inclusion approach. So we are trying to break these barriers. It is a long journey, but a journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. Okay. And I want to encourage Priscilla that we are moving on, and NTV is our partner in this struggle, because the media plays a very big role in helping us to do advocacy and creating awareness. Because just imagine, I am here as a minister, I pay taxes to government. Esther here gets a salary, she pays taxes to government. So we also contribute economically to the development of a country. So if you empower us, then you know that you have removed us from being that low level of poverty. We are now able to come to the economic activities. Eventually, we shall be paying taxes and become useful citizens.
All right, Esther, in terms of economic empowerment, let's look at employment opportunities, inclusivity of persons with disabilities. Has there been a resounding call towards that?
I would say there's a lot that still needs to be done in regard to inclusivity in employment. If you look at our Persons with Disabilities Act, it's very clear that persons with disabilities must get jobs. And government has a role to play by putting in place employment quotas. And these employment quotas must be published so that everyone gets to know what is the quota NTV must have among their employees. I'm using that as an example. And this has not yet come out. And because of that, people are asking us, where are the employment quotas? Where are the guidelines? You want us to employ your people, where are they? So that is still a big challenge, and we're engaging the Ministry of Labour together with my minister here to see that the employment quotas come out. We think that's one way we shall see increments in the numbers of persons with disabilities. We have some companies that have taken on persons with disabilities out of the advocacy, the awareness, but we want government, being that they are the largest employers, to be also taking on this as one of their tasks. And we think they can absorb us. We are not so many. 5.8 million people out of 45, 45 million, and you could find that maybe about 10% of those can have gone to school and have the qualifications. So it is easy for government to absorb us. But what is lacking is the employment quotas. But still, the other challenge is that reasonable accommodation. If someone wants to employ a person with disabilities, the first thing they'll think about is, oh, the cost. Now this is a person with hearing impairment, we need an interpreter, this is additional cost. Now this is Esther with her degrees and what, but you need a personal assistant. No, I will not manage. So the cost, to me, I think is just another thing. But if employers could look at the capacity of this person and what they're able to contribute to an institution,
support,
then the reasonable accommodation would easily come. But because we look at the expense first, then we think it's not possible to have a person with disability in the workforce. So that is a problem. We even have a provision in the income tax that says that if you employed 5% of your workforce to be persons with disabilities, you are entitled to a 2% tax incentive. But many private employers are not taking advantage of that. So that means that even government is saying, yes, we appreciate their additional costs, but if you did employ our people, there's this opportunity. So we are not seeing that coming through, and yet we think that private companies would have taken advantage of that. And one thing I want to assure you is that persons with disabilities are very productive. When we decide to sit down and do something, we are serious. Yeah, but many people think, now that one's going to be a burden to us, it's going to disturb us. No, those people are complicated. That's not true. Try the opportunities that are there and take persons with disabilities on, then you'll see the difference.
Basically, use evidence-based approach to say that they're difficult.
Yes.
You know, employ them, and until you have that experience, should you not use that to stop them from actually enjoying employment opportunities. Okay. Honorable Minister, the International Day of Persons with Disabilities is upon us. Why is this day important, and what is the theme focusing on this year?
Yeah, this day, first of all, is like a Christmas day for other people. Enjoy the 25th of December. You see everybody going for new dress and whatever. For the disability movement, that is our Christmas.
So this is your new dress.
This is the new dress I'm preparing to go to Barara, and we shall do the dancing, we shall do everything. But usually we do stock checking to say, where have we reached? What has government done for us? For example, the International Day this year is going to be in Mbarara, in Busebwera. We have organized government entities to come and give accountability what they have done for disabled people. Because the theme is talking about innovation for the inclusion of people with disabilities. So these innovations are going to come, like maybe the Minister of Science and Technology, they are talking of innovations. What innovations are there for people with disability? I've heard Esther saying, we are not being included or whatever. We are saying National Planning Authority. What is your approach? In terms of your planning, how have you brought people with disabilities in terms of these innovations? Minister of Education, you handle a big thing. How are you doing your innovations in terms of education? Because I'll tell you previously, if you went to a school and you got Esther in the classroom, she'll be making a lot of noise with her machine, but now saying what innovation can be done that can make her be part of the class, but a quiet class, because now we are promoting what we call inclusive education. So this year, we are going to hear what the government entities are doing, and the people with disabilities will bring more proposals and say, if you did like this, maybe this could be a better situation. So we are going to be in Mbarara, and we have a lot of activities. We are also going to give to the public. We are going to give our blood. Our blood is not disabled, and I know it can save 1 or 2 people when they get accidents. So we are going to do blood donation. We are also going to, there's that symposium, we shall have a blood donation, and we are going to do other things that are going to be shown in that area, even giving out grants for special, the disability special grant will be given to some groups of people within that area as a demonstration that government is supporting economic empowerment of these people. So I want really to say that this is an interesting day. And it would be nice. I think NTV will be there to capture the memorial activities.
How can me, Priscilla, be a part of that day?
You are welcome. It's very open. You only need to get in your suit and come to Mbarara. Just get on a bus if you are not coming under NTV, and you come and you enjoy with us. And when you come there, you'll never regret. I think you'll even admire to be a disabled.
That's true. Very true. Okay, all right. You've talked about innovations being in the theme this year. Esther, when it comes to innovations, projecting the next 5 years, since you have a good vision of the next 5 years, what are those innovations you would recommend be adopted for persons with disabilities?
Yeah, thank you, Priscilla. There are several innovations because we know technology is the way to go now. Everyone is talking about ICT, and we're asking how is ICT inclusive for persons with disabilities. I talked about a typewriter. Previously, when we were starting, yeah, it used to be typewriters. Now we are talking about computers, laptops, and if you go to schools now of learners with disabilities, especially those that have visual impairment, many of them are doing their exams on laptops and on computers. So that means that there is technological advancement. We are not using typewriters anymore because the laptop enables you to edit your work, it enables you to print, it enables you to do so many things, which was not the case with a typewriter. So those are the innovations we are talking about. Now they are talking phones. Persons with visual impairment are using talking phones, and we see so many innovations around phones. So we are saying, what else can we use these phones in terms of advancing the lives of people with disabilities? We see now electronic wheelchairs. So is it possible that Uganda can begin thinking about innovating those wheelchairs here? Because the costs for those wheelchairs, when we import them from abroad, they are very expensive. So how can the Ministry of Technology think about coming up with an equipment like this, a device like this that can enable a person with disability move from one place to another with comfort? When it comes to agriculture, how can these technologies, tractors that they are making, be made innovatively that a person with physical disability can even manage their own agricultural projects without struggling or without holding a hoe, as the case is now? When it comes to health, we are still looking at that. Many of the persons with disabilities that have been declared so, it's because either there was no technology here to manage a disability in one way or the other. We still see some people struggling, especially those that have multiple disabilities. So what can the Ministry of Health think about in terms of managing some of these disabilities? What researches? I may not have all the answers because myself, I see some of these things happening in other countries. But if they are happening in America, in Canada, why can't they come here? So that means that our government, especially the ministry in charge of technology and innovations, should do more beyond what is there, but with the purpose of improving lives of persons with disabilities. Let them come and consult us. Let them come and benchmark, and then we know what will work for us and what will not work.
The Honorable Minister here said everyone is coming down to Mbarara to give accountability, and I trust that that's one of the accountabilities that are going to be coming through. Well, it's been a humble privilege, ladies, to have you on the program. We've had this conversation with Honorable Asamo Helen Grace, Minister of State for Disability Affairs. We've also had this conversation with the amazing CEO for the National Union of Disabled Persons of Uganda, and that is Esther Kyozira, enlightening us on the opportunities that there are for all inclusiveness. Persons with disabilities must be included. Their skills are not disabled. Their blood is not disabled. Basically, what we're saying, disability is not inability. As they celebrate, and equally alongside them, we celebrate the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. The theme being the role of innovation in disability inclusion. It begs the question, with the technologies, with the advancements that are coming through for development, national and local, is there inclusion when it comes to consideration of the other special groups that are considered under government? Well, that marks the end of this conversation. Trust that it's been enlightful.